Ladies and gentlemen, in a world increasingly defined by sensitivity and accommodation, it's time to confront a harsh truth: being too nice can be a problem. It's not kindness, generosity, or goodwill that I'm challenging here. Those are virtues. But the compulsive need to please everyone at the expense of your own integrity, ambitions, and well-being, that's a recipe for personal disaster. Let's be clear, niceness isn't inherently virtuous. Niceness is often a mask for fear, a shield for insecurity, or worse, a form of manipulation to avoid confrontation. When you're too nice, you risk becoming a shadow of yourself, living to satisfy the expectations of others rather than carving your own path. The consequences of being too nice: what happens when you're too nice? You surrender your boundaries, you tolerate disrespect, you say yes to things you don't want to do because you're terrified of being disliked. In doing so, you erode your own sense of self-worth. The truth is, the more you bend over backward for others, the more they expect and the less they value you. In 2025, this tendency to over-accommodate has only grown worse. Social media pressures us to present a polished, agreeable persona. Workplace cultures emphasize team harmony to the point of discouraging dissent. Relationships, whether personal or professional, often demand compromise at the expense of individuality. But the result? A society filled with frustrated, resentful people who have sacrificed their own dreams and principles on the altar of niceness. The importance of assertiveness. What's the alternative? Assertiveness. To live authentically, you must be willing to draw lines, say no, and even risk conflict when necessary. This isn't about being aggressive or cruel, it's about being honest. It's about respecting yourself enough to demand that respect from others. If you're too nice, you become like a tree with no roots, easily swayed, incapable of standing firm when storms come. But assertiveness gives you roots. It allows you to stand tall, knowing who you are, what you want, and where you're going. Reclaiming your power. Here's the challenge for 2025. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed for you. Instead, grow, stretch, expand. Speak your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Niceness without boundaries leads to self-betrayal, a concept that many people struggle to understand until they find themselves depleted, frustrated, and wondering why their relationships or circumstances feel so one-sided. Being nice is often praised in society. It's seen as a virtue, a mark of being a good person. However, there's a stark difference between being kind and being overly accommodating. When niceness is unchecked and not paired with the firmness of personal boundaries, it becomes a tool for self-neglect rather than a reflection of genuine character. This problem often stems from a deep-seated fear of rejection or conflict. People who are excessively nice tend to avoid saying no because they worry about disappointing others or being perceived as difficult. They may have grown up in environments where harmony was prioritized over honest expression, where disagreeing or standing up for oneself was discouraged. Over time, this pattern solidifies into an automatic response: agree, comply, and go along to avoid the discomfort of confrontation. The cost of this behavior is profound. When you consistently prioritize others' needs over your own, you begin to lose sight of who you are and what you want. Your identity becomes entangled with the expectations of others, and your self-worth is measured by how much you can give or how well you can please those around you. This can manifest in subtle ways, like agreeing to take on extra work, even when you're already overwhelmed, or in more significant ways, such as staying in unhealthy relationships because you're afraid of hurting someone's feelings. What's often overlooked is that people who are too nice end up fostering unhealthy dynamics in their relationships. Without clear boundaries, you inadvertently teach others that your needs and desires are secondary, or worse, that they don't matter at all. Over time, this creates a power imbalance. Others may not necessarily intend to take advantage of you, but they come to expect your compliance because it's what you've consistently offered. This can lead to feelings of resentment and bitterness, not just toward others, but also toward yourself. Self-betrayal occurs when you ignore your instincts and suppress your true feelings to maintain an image of niceness. Each time you say yes when you want to say no, or smile through discomfort to keep the peace, you chip away at your sense of self. This can lead to a host of emotional and psychological issues, including anxiety, depression, and a pervasive feeling of emptiness. It's as though you're living someone else's life, playing a role rather than being your authentic self. The irony is that excessive niceness doesn't always lead to the outcomes people hope for. While you might avoid immediate conflict or rejection, you also miss out on building deeper, more genuine connections. True relationships, whether personal or professional, are built on mutual respect, honesty, and understanding. When you're too nice, you deny others the opportunity to know the real you. Instead, they interact with a curated version of you, one that's designed to fit their expectations rather than challenge them. Moreover, being overly nice often leads to burnout. There's only so much energy and time you can give before you start to feel drained. Without boundaries, you'll find yourself constantly overcommitted, struggling to balance the demands of others with your own needs. This can affect not just your mental and emotional health, but also your physical well-being. Stress, fatigue, and even chronic illnesses can arise from the relentless effort to be everything to everyone. For many, the fear of setting boundaries comes from a misunderstanding of what boundaries truly are. Boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They're guidelines that define how you want to be treated and what you're willing to accept. They're an essential part of any healthy relationship, allowing both parties to understand and respect each other's limits. Without them, relationships become murky and one-sided, with one person constantly giving while the other takes. Reclaiming your sense of self and breaking free from the cycle of excessive niceness requires a conscious effort. It involves recognizing the patterns in your behavior and the underlying fears that drive them. It means learning to tolerate the discomfort of saying no and understanding that this discomfort is temporary, whereas the consequences of self-betrayal are long-lasting. This isn't to say that being nice is inherently bad. Kindness, empathy, and generosity are qualities that enrich our lives and the lives of those around us. The problem arises when these qualities are overextended, when they come at the expense of your own needs and well-being. It's about balance, about being kind to others while also being kind to yourself. When you begin to set boundaries, you may encounter resistance. People who are accustomed to your niceness may feel confused, frustrated, or even angry when you start to assert yourself. This is normal, and it's important to remember that their reaction is not a reflection of your worth, but rather an adjustment to the new dynamic. Over time, those who truly value you will adapt and come to respect the boundaries you've set. The journey to overcoming excessive niceness is not easy. It requires introspection, courage, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths about yourself and your relationships. But it's a journey worth taking. By setting boundaries and prioritizing your own well-being, you create a foundation for a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and true to who you are. Assertiveness earns respect, not universal approval, a concept that may seem counterintuitive in a world where being liked often feels like the ultimate goal. Many people grow up learning that to be accepted and valued, they must avoid conflict, agree with others, and maintain a demeanor of constant agreeability. While this approach can create temporary harmony, it often fails to generate the respect that is essential for meaningful, enduring relationships. Respect and approval are fundamentally different. Approval is rooted in agreement, and validation, it's about aligning with what others expect or desire. Respect, on the other hand, comes from recognizing someone's authenticity, strength, and integrity, even when you don't necessarily agree with them. Assertiveness is the key to cultivating respect because it demonstrates a willingness to stand by your beliefs, express your needs, and establish boundaries. Assertiveness doesn't mean being aggressive or domineering. It's not about imposing your will on others or disregarding their feelings. Instead, it's about communicating your thoughts and needs clearly and respectfully while honoring the autonomy of others. This balance is what makes assertiveness so powerful. It allows you to be firm without being harsh, confident without being arrogant. When you prioritize approval over respect, you often end up compromising your values, desires, and identity. You might find yourself agreeing to things you don't believe in or suppressing your opinions to avoid rocking the boat. While this can make you seem easygoing and pleasant, It also sends a message that your thoughts and feelings are unimportant. Over time, this can erode your self-esteem and lead to feelings of frustration and resentment. In contrast, assertiveness signals self-respect. It shows that you value your own needs and opinions enough to voice them, even when it's uncomfortable. This willingness to advocate for yourself is what earns the respect of others. People may not always like what you have to say, but they will recognize your authenticity and strength. They will understand that you are someone who stands by their principles and isn't afraid to be honest. In personal relationships, assertiveness creates a foundation of trust and mutual respect. When you express your needs and boundaries clearly, you allow others to understand you better. This clarity helps to prevent misunderstandings and fosters deeper, more meaningful connections. On the other hand, when you prioritize approval, you might avoid difficult conversations or pretend to be okay with things that bother you. This can lead to passive-aggressive behavior, resentment, and ultimately a breakdown in the relationship. In professional settings, assertiveness is equally important. It allows you to advocate for yourself, negotiate effectively, and establish your value. Employees who are assertive are often seen as confident and capable, which can lead to greater opportunities for growth and advancement. Conversely, those who prioritize approval may struggle to assert themselves in meetings, hesitate to take credit for their work, or avoid speaking up about issues, all of which can hinder their career progression. One of the main challenges of being assertive is overcoming the fear of rejection or conflict. Many people hesitate to assert themselves because they worry about how others will react. They fear being disliked, criticized, or seen as difficult. While these fears are natural, they are often exaggerated. Most people appreciate honesty and clarity, even if it's initially uncomfortable. Another challenge is learning to navigate the fine line between assertiveness and aggression. Assertiveness requires confidence, but it also demands empathy and respect for others. It's about expressing yourself in a way that is honest but not hurtful, firm but not confrontational. This balance can be difficult to achieve, especially if you're used to being overly accommodating, or conversely, if you've struggled with being overly aggressive in the past. Developing assertiveness takes practice and self-awareness. It involves recognizing your own needs and values, learning to communicate effectively, and building the confidence to stand by your principles. It also requires a willingness to face discomfort. Being assertive can be challenging, especially in situations where you feel vulnerable or unsure of yourself, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes. One of the most significant benefits of assertiveness is the sense of empowerment it brings. When you assert yourself, you take control of your life. You stop living to please others and start making choices that align with your values and goals. This empowerment not only enhances your self-esteem, but also inspires others to respect you. People admire those who have the courage to be authentic and the confidence to stand by their beliefs. It's important to recognize that not everyone will respect your assertiveness. Some people may feel threatened or offended when you assert yourself, especially if they are accustomed to you being overly accommodating. Others may try to manipulate or criticize you in an attempt to regain control. While this can be disheartening, it's essential to remember that their reactions are not a reflection of your worth. Respect is not about winning everyone's approval. It's about staying true to yourself. Assertiveness also plays a crucial role in creating boundaries. Without clear boundaries, relationships can become imbalanced and unhealthy. Assertiveness allows you to communicate your limits and expectations in a way that is clear and respectful. This not only protects your well-being, but also sets the stage for healthier, more equitable relationships. In situations where conflict arises, assertiveness can be a powerful tool for resolution. By expressing your thoughts and feelings openly and respectfully, you create an environment where constructive dialogue is possible. This approach helps to de-escalate tensions and fosters understanding and collaboration. In contrast, avoiding conflict to maintain approval often leads to unresolved issues and lingering resentment. The rewards of assertiveness are not immediate. It takes time for people to adjust to the new dynamics and for you to build the confidence to assert yourself consistently. But the long-term benefits are worth the effort. Assertiveness enhances your relationships, boosts your self-esteem, and allows you to live a life that is authentic and fulfilling. Saying no is an act of self-preservation, not selfishness, yet many people struggle to embrace this truth. From a young age, we are often conditioned to prioritize the needs of others over our own, taught that saying yes is polite and considerate while saying no is rude or dismissive. Over time, this belief becomes deeply ingrained, leading to a reluctance to refuse requests or establish boundaries, even when doing so is necessary for our well-being. However, saying no is not only acceptable, it is essential for maintaining balance, protecting your energy, and living a life that aligns with your values and priorities. The resistance to saying no often stems from a fear of disappointing others or being judged as unkind. Many people equate refusal with rejection, assuming that by saying no, they are letting someone down or jeopardizing their relationship. In reality, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding, which include respecting each other's boundaries. Saying no, when done with kindness and clarity, doesn't diminish the relationship. Instead, it reinforces your authenticity and teaches others how to treat you. Saying yes to everything, on the other hand, can lead to a dangerous pattern of overcommitment and self-neglect. When you take on too much, you spread yourself thin, making it difficult to give your best effort to any one task or responsibility. This can result in feelings of stress, burnout, and resentment as you struggle to meet the demands placed upon you. Moreover, constantly prioritizing others' needs over your own can lead to a sense of loss of control over your own life, as you find yourself living according to other people's expectations rather than your own goals and desires. Learning to say no is a process that begins with understanding your own limits and priorities. Everyone has a finite amount of time, energy, and resources, and it's impossible to meet every demand placed upon you without sacrificing your well-being. Recognizing this fact is not selfish, it is a necessary step toward creating a life that is sustainable and fulfilling. By identifying what matters most to you, whether it's your career, family, health, or personal growth, you can make more intentional decisions about how you allocate your time and energy. Saying no is also a way of asserting your boundaries, which are crucial for maintaining healthy relationships. Boundaries are not about shutting people out or being uncooperative. They are about setting clear expectations for how you want to be treated and what you are willing to tolerate. When you establish boundaries, you communicate your needs and values to others, helping to prevent misunderstandings and ensuring that your relationships are built on mutual respect. For many people, the idea of saying no is intimidating because they fear the potential consequences such as conflict, disappointment, or rejection. These fears are understandable but often exaggerated. In most cases, people are more understanding and accommodating than we give them credit for. When you say no in a respectful and considerate manner, you are more likely to be met with acceptance than hostility. Even if someone does react negatively, their response is a reflection of their own expectations and emotions, not a measure of your worth or kindness. It's important to recognize that saying no is not just about refusing requests from others, it's also about saying no to distractions, obligations, and habits that don't serve your best interests. In a world filled with constant demands for your attention, emails, social media, advertisements, and more, learning to say no is a form of self-discipline. It allows you to focus on what truly matters and to prioritize your time and energy effectively. Developing the confidence to say no requires practice and self-awareness. Start by paying attention to situations where you feel uncomfortable saying yes and consider whether your agreement aligns with your values and priorities. If it doesn't, give yourself permission to decline. Remember that you don't owe anyone an explanation for your decisions. A simple and polite no is sufficient. If you feel compelled to offer an explanation, keep it concise and honest, without over-apologizing or justifying yourself excessively. One of the most empowering aspects of saying no is the freedom it brings. When you stop trying to please everyone, you free yourself from the burden of unrealistic expectations and allow yourself to focus on what truly matters to you. This doesn't mean you should become rigid or unyielding. Flexibility and compromise are important in any relationship. However, by setting boundaries and saying no when necessary, you create space for the things that truly matter in your life. Saying no can also inspire others to do the same. When you demonstrate the courage to prioritize your own well-being, you set an example for those around you, encouraging them to do likewise. This can lead to healthier and more balanced relationships, as everyone involved learns to respect each other's boundaries and needs. It's also worth noting that saying no is not an absolute refusal. It can be a way of negotiating or redefining expectations. For example, if someone asks for your help with a project, but you're unable to commit fully, you might say no to the original request but offer an alternative, such as providing advice or assistance at a later time. This approach allows you to maintain your boundaries while still being supportive and cooperative. The act of saying no is not just about protecting your time and energy, it's also about affirming your own worth. When you say no, you communicate that your needs and priorities are valid and deserving of respect. This self-affirmation can have a profound impact on your self-esteem and overall sense of well-being as you learn to trust yourself and honor your own instincts. Over time, the ability to say no becomes an integral part of living authentically. It allows you to align your actions with your values, to maintain balance in your relationships, and to cultivate a sense of purpose and fulfillment in your life. While it may be challenging at first, the practice of saying no is ultimately a gift to yourself and those around you, as it fosters a culture of mutual respect and understanding.